Okay, in this video I'm going to walk you through how to go about building and drawing the circle fillet object here. So one of the first things that we need to do is we need to start taking a look at what is concentric and how is this object created. Looking at the center marks and center lines here, you can see that this center line is saying that this side of the object is mirroring this side, and the same is the center line running through the bottom of the part or the middle of the part here, showing that the top is the mirror object of the bottom. Looking at the center marks extending out past the edge of this large arc, which is created by making a circle, you can see that this center mark and this these two circles are concentric, sharing the same center point. Same with this arc and this circle, and as well for the remaining circles. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to start working with dimensional information for centers. And I'm going to start first, again, pulling down my layer tool, grabbing my construction line, grab my line tool, and I'm going to make a 3 3/8 line. So down here I'm just going to create 3.38. Then I can see where the end of these two, at the end points, that's where the circles will be drawn. So I'll come into here and I'm going to go ahead and do a diameter circle. That's 3 inches, and times 2 means there's one here and one here. So we'll go ahead and pull back out here, go to Object Viz, grab my circle tool, diameter, and we'll go ahead and pull out and do 3 inches. I'll do another circle here, right click for repeat. That's a fast tool there. Alright, whoops. We'll do this again, grab diameter, select and pull 3 and hit enter. Now, so that's set up. I have those two circles. Well, I can go ahead and now create this radius circle next, because that is now concentric. As this extends out past the edge of that arc, that is concentric, so that's going to be a radius of 2. So we'll keep building those out. So grab the radius circle, find center, pull out, 2. Do this again, repeat circle, 2. So now I have those set up. Next thing I'm looking to do is we can probably go ahead and set up the location for these 2 points coming off of my midpoint here. So I'll go ahead and grab my construction lines. I'll grab my line tool and go ahead, and we need to set up a 3.5 line that's going to be centered off of this point here. Now, we could do this and we could draw up and we can draw down, but with CAD it's really fast to draw a 3.5 inch line. Then we highlight it, and we can move it from midpoint to midpoint. All right, that takes care of finding those center points, and I know it's 3.5 inches long. So at that point, I can go ahead and create this circle. Now, there's no dimensions on these, but these are all set off of this dimension right here. So this is 0.75. So we got a 0.75 here and throughout the rest. So we'll go ahead and this is diameter also. So we'll pull this down. We'll go to diameter. First, I need to change this to my Object Viz layer. Then we'll go diameter. And we'll click and pull, 0.75. And since I know I'm going to need more of them, I can just go ahead and copy it. Sometimes the copy tool is a little faster, dropping it there. So let's go ahead and get this next position set. So there's 7.5. So again, we'll do the construction layer, grab my line tool, just draw out a line, 7.5. And we'll do the same thing again, where we'll move it to its midpoint. Now we know where that's going to end up. So we can go ahead and set the rest of those there. So I'll highlight this, and I'll grab the copy tool, and I'll copy one to there. Now be very careful that you get that point. You got to zoom in close. You don't want to be at the wrong point there. Make sure you zoom in, you get that end point. Okay, you always go back and double check you're on the end point by zooming in. Cannot tell you enough how important it is to zoom in and zoom out. So now I can continue and build the rest of these circles. So here we got a radius of 1. All right, and there's 2 of them, meaning one here, one here. So we'll go ahead and actually I'll just show you here quickly. If you end up making a little whoopsie here, I'm going to go ahead and draw this out as a radius of 1 and say, oh, it's on the wrong layer. No big deal. Just highlight it, pull your layer down, change it to the right layer. Then grab the Object Viz layer this time, and we'll go ahead again, zoom in, make sure you grab that point. 1 inch, we're all looking good here. All right, so constantly zooming in, zooming out. We'll go ahead and do this top one, 1.12. So that's also radius, so we'll grab that radius circle again. Select it, pull out, 1.12, enter. Right click, repeat circle. Pull out, 1.12, enter, escape. All right, now I think we're probably at a good point. We can start doing some fillets, right? So we can start using that fillet tool. So let's do this first fillet right here. So that is going to be a 1.12 fillet radius. All right, there's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So now to use that fillet tool, we're going to come up here to the fillet tool right here on the Modify toolbar. We'll go ahead and we'll select the fillet tool. And the first thing we need to do is we got to come down here and look at your command line. So right now it says current settings, mode equals trim. radius equals 0. That means it's on a trim mode and it's set for a radius of 1. All right. Now yours is probably set to a radius of 0. Mine is set to 1. So if you make a radius at 0, you're not making anything. Okay, just getting frustrated. So first thing you need to do is make sure you give it the right radius. Well, this radius is 1.12. I'm going to come down here, fillet selected, first object, or polyline radius trim multiple. I want to give it radius. So I'm going to click on radius. Now I can go ahead and type in 1.12, hit enter. Now I'm ready to use the fillet tool. So I'm going to select this object. I'm going to mouse over this object, and look, we get a little preview. A little preview pop up down there, and then click. Do this again, repeat fillet, click. All right, so we just keep working our way around here, creating what we need to create with the fillet tool. Okay, and you notice I'm starting to use that right click a lot more. Love the right click, makes it really fast. Okay, so now we're going to do this. This is a radius of 0.5, and there's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll go back up here, fillet. Got to give it a fillet radius. So I can even just type in the letter R and hit enter. That works. Now it says specify fillet radius 0.5, enter. And now we're going to come back down here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do fillet to fillet. Right click. We'll do it again. Fillet to fillet. Right click. Keep moving your way around here. All right. And now we got all these fillets. Now we need to do some trimmity trims. So I'm going to grab my trim tool. And I'm going to just start clicking on things I don't need. Well, I don't need any of this. So start trimming things up. Don't need any of this. Don't need any of this. So you start cleaning it up. Now, I always recommend trimming the outsides here first. As you start working your way around, you start trimming up these outside pieces. What that's going to do is it then just leaves these bigger chunks. Well, I'm going to hit escape to finish the command just to show you. If I just do a quick little panning window across that chunk, right, I can delete it. Then you're not trimming more than you need to trim, right? So grab that trim tool again. Come down here. We'll trim this out. We'll trim this out. And we'll trim this. There we go. And then I'll just click on this one. I'll click on this one. Do little panning windows to get rid of this mess. And don't try and get all in one fell swoop. You'll work your way through and grab them. Okay? There's a circle fillet in a rough draw out on how to do this. Now we're ready to go ahead and start adding center marks and dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to go right ahead and I can either turn off my construction lines up here, voila, or if I don't even want to have them in there anymore, I can delete them. So frankly, I'm just going to go ahead and delete them. So I'm going to now go to my center line layer, and I always want you to get used to doing center marks and center lines immediately after you draw something or as you draw it. Okay, grab your center mark tool, and then we're going to go ahead and select the largest concentric arc or circle. Okay, if you click here, it's not going to extend out. It's not telling you that this is now centered. Okay, so we're going to then go ahead and use the largest concentric arc or circle for any marking. Okay, then what we're going to do is I'm going to select all of these. Whoops, I'm going to select all these here, and I'm going to take and extend the edge of this center mark to 0.25. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to right click, properties, come over here, the left extension, 0.25. I'm going to highlight 0.25, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, and they have all extended. So it's a pretty fast way to get the extensions to be the length we need. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start annotating this object. And one of the things before you start annotating an object, you really want to then say, okay, well, what size layout am I going to be working with? Okay, so if we have a title block here, we can go into the viewport and we can take a look at this to see, well, what's going to be the layout? Okay, what's our scale? So if I go 1 to 1, that's not going to fit with dimensions. So we're going to pull this back to 1 to 2. Knowing that this is going to be 1 to 2 means that we have to use an annotative dimension style, and we might as well just start annotating it at 1 to 2. Okay, so if you've watched the annotative dimension video, you understand annotative dimensioning in that you have to create dimensions and apply the annotation to the dimensions. So to do this, we're going to go back here to model space, and I'm actually going to take and just move this whole thing down and out of the way because it's also too close to this object. The other object was showing up. So what I'm going to do, pull down my annotation, make sure that my dimension style is based off the annotative dimension style that was built in the annotative dimension video. So I'm going to go ahead and grab an annotative dimension style that I know is set properly. I'm going to go to the annotation or the dimension style layer or dimension layer, and now I'm going to start to create the same annotation that I see here. I'll grab my linear dimension tool, and it says you're creating an annotative object. Set the annotation scale at which the annotation is intended to display. Well, we know that this is going to display at 1 to 2. So I can pull this down, and I can select 1 to 2 here. The other place I can do it, if for some reason you don't get that popping up, you can come down here and you can change the annotative scale in this drawing or in this model space. This is going to now create annotative dimension scales when I place them. So I got to, again, make sure you're using the annotative dimension style that was made in the video. Then you got to make sure that you select the linear dimension tool. That's at 1 to 2. And then when you select the end of the center mark and end of the center mark, pull down and drop the dimension. Okay? When you start dimensioning circles, don't go from the center of the circle to the center of the circle and pull down. That is a sloppy way to dimension because you're running over top of your center mark. Okay? What you want to do is grab the linear tool. You want to go from the center mark to a center mark, pull down, and then drop the dimension. Okay? You want to have a gap right here. This is called the witness gap, and that helps in viewing a drawing properly. It is very important and critical to have this. Now, the other thing I want you to take note of is we are placing annotative dimensions. When you mouse over this dimension, you see that little symbol that comes up next to the cursor. That symbol tells you that it is an annotative dimension. If, for some reason, you start dimensioning, go back to 1 to 1. Let's say you start dimensioning and you're dimensioning things at a 1 to 1 dimension, okay, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I need this to be at 1 to 2, okay, because if I go to my layout, let me find that layout where we were. There we are. Pull this up. See, we go ahead and we lay this out and we take this thing to 1 to 1. Well, the 1 to 2's disappear, but the 1 to 1 shows up. We'll take it 1 to 2. The 1 to 2 show up, but the 1 to 1 disappears, right? So we know that we have a problem. We need to make sure we have those scales associated with the dimensions. So what we need to do is we then go ahead, we mouse over the dimension, we left click, we right click, and then we come and get annotative object scale. Add current, which is whatever's set down here. Add delete scales gives you complete manual control over all the scales that are added or deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to 2, hit OK. And I know I don't need 1 to 1, so I'll just delete it. But before I do that, I want to show you this. If I mouse over top of this now, you can see I have 2 annotative symbols that pop up. If I click on the dimension, you see I have double dimensions. Okay? So that comes into a problem, right? If I change this scale, you can see this just changed. When this scale gets set and changed, any dimension that is associated will show up in model space. You can see over here on this drawing, I have some other things associated and they change. Okay? So it's important to understand and play with this to get this. It is a very important concept in CAD. So when we do this, we'll go ahead and I'm going to just change this back out because I don't like to have additional scales if I don't need them. So we'll delete that scale, hit OK. Then the only scale that's going to show up regardless, okay, of what's set down here is going to be that 1 to 2. All right, so now we just go continue and just work around. Start working the same dimensions you needed. Okay, so we got the height, and if one's on one side and one's the other, that's okay. So let's go to this R1.0. So we'll do this. We'll grab radius. We'll go ahead and select here. We'll pull out. Oh, I'm at 1 to 1. So instead of doing this, I'll go ahead and grab 1 to 1. We'll change this thing to 1 to 2. Then we still need to add this to the scale. Show you how to do this again. Grab this, delete this, hit OK. Now, before I change, I want to make sure I did set that to 1 to 2. I did. And then I'll go ahead and grab radius again and start working the dimensions around. Now, to get that to say that we have multiples, okay, see it says times 2. You want to zoom in on it and just double click. Then move the cursor over to the end, times 2. Whoops, 2. There we go. All right, so you can easily go ahead and do that. Here we have, well, that was 2 of, oh, I should have had a times 2 there. I didn't. So we'll go ahead and set that up properly. We'll do times 2. All right. and then you can keep working your way around the drawing, creating the annotation necessary. All right? So I hope this helps you get through that circle fillet. Hope you get to the point where you can understand that how laying this stuff out is going to work. You go ahead, lay it out, get all that stuff set up on your title block. Make sure that logo is showing up properly. If you have to copy it in again, you can do that or copy from a different drawing. And go for it.